So they actually use used ones already to do it on.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
So if you guys wanna see, so this is it's 2025 now, and it came from ledger art or from ledger drawings to ledger art. It's an art form now today, So a lot of different people pick it up, a lot of different tribes, that pick it up, but it actually came from the Southern Cheyennes. That's where it came from because we started doing it on paper way back, in the 1830s, So doing this type of art, telling stories like ceremonial scenes, battle scenes, and like this one right here is one of my favorite ones. It's a story about this lady right here. Her name was Buffalo Calf Road Woman. She was the first female warrior, that actually fought in battle, you know, and uh, and she saved her brother. I did another one where she saved her brother, where I drew him on the back of this horse, and I drew all these soldiers, the guns shooting at him and everything. Where she saw her brother, and he was getting surrounded by these soldiers, and it happened a week before the Battle of Little Bighorn at the Rosebud, and she wanted to, and she saw him, so she knew, she had a lot of love for her brother, so she knew that he was going to get killed if she didn't do something. So she jumped on a horse and she rode out there to where he was because he was surrounded by these soldiers, and they were shooting at him. So before she got there, she had an encounter with the soldier. She overtook that soldier and took a saber from him, took a saber, and she rode into to where her brother was at, and he jumped on the back of the horse, and she rode out real fast and saved him, from getting shot, getting killed. Then a week later, then she rode into the Battle of Little Bighorn with her husband and her brother, and I drew this showing where she's got war paint on and she's got that saber, and they decorated it up, And so she's riding there, and she rode on a gray horse, She's riding in there, with that saber. So that's the kind of things they would do, telling a story instead of writing it down, So they would tell, those stories, and like ceremonial scenes, like this man right here, he was called a contrary. We used to have these contraries, these yokas, and they did things backwards and stuff. And they carried these bows right here that were called thunder bows. And they weren't an actual bow that they used in battle, but they would carry them, and that bow would protect them from bullets and arrows and stuff, So, then they wouldn't retreat in these battles. The only time they would retreat if they won the battle or if they died in battle, So they would never retreat, and these guys were considered holy men. They would camp outside. You know, they wouldn't camp with the main body of camp. They would camp outside and be by themselves. They weren't married. They didn't have no children. So people would come to them if they wanted help. They would do things. They would have to lay this thunderbow on a bed of sage. Or hang it up in a tree or something. And so this guy here, he was just a warrior. Drew him with the uh, uh, what do you call those? Remington, the gun, that he had, and so then this one here is a ceremonial scene. I call it bowstring because these are, the Cheyenne tribe. We have four societies in our tribe. We have the dog soldier, kid fox, elk scrapers, and we bowstring. And I belong to this society, bowstring. So this is a scene where these young men they joined the society, then they would have that ceremony, that initiation ceremony, then right after that, then they would dance. They would sing their songs because each society had their own songs. Dog soldiers had their own, kid fox had their own. Then bowstring, we have our own songs, bowstring song. Then they would sing. Then they would get up and they would dance and they would shake these rattles, that they have, They would shake those rattles. And now today, that's a lot of tribes do that dance. They call it gore dance, And so, but this is my society, where these guys are initiated and they would dress, They would dress up, then they would get initiated, then they would sing their songs and they would dance to it, or like an everyday scene, like this guy, I'm still working on this. I'm not done with it yet, still working on it, where he's just on his horse, out riding, So they would do everyday scenes like that. And these are our originals. These are on paper from the 1800s, the paper. I go to state sales and auctions, whatever, and I find these old ledger papers, ledger books like that. Yeah, like that ledger book. That's the first thing I noticed when we came in. I said, ledger book, boy. I was opening that. So, I'm always looking, for that. Yeah, for that paper because I'm always, like this one right here, this one here, and this one here. These are accounts of an old store, like from this one here's like it's from like 1868. This here, you can see how much coffee costs, sugar, stuff like that back then, And was it this one? No, this one right here. Well, this one here was an accountant book in Missouri, but this is kind of toward the back, where they were blank, but toward the front there was all kinds of writings, with land taxes and different things, And these ones here are my oldest ones. If you hold it up to the light, you can probably see it right there. Mark, it's got 1845 on it, And so, but it's just, it's just the way that we used to do art. But I'm still trying to keep it alive and telling people like you guys, history of my people through my art. Keeping it going. And now I do big old acrylic, canvas paintings. I do this type of art, but on acrylic on canvas. Do that. I do hide paintings on buffalo hides, elk hides, deer hides, and, I do beadwork too. I make pipe bags. I do replicas of things back in the 1800s. Like them old pipe bag designs. Got several people that have my pipe bags. And I brain tan my own hides. I do them and I sew the beads. I use them old. I got old French beads that I use, and I do those. And some of them I use. I even use real sinew, and I sew the beads on too. Some of them. And but that's the stuff I do, and I do a lot of old things. And this is the type of art I do. It got me. I told people, that one day this art is going to take me all over the place, take me around the world and stuff. And now, this art, when I'm selling my paintings and stuff like that, got them in Japan and Switzerland and all over the place. Did art shows in Paris, and different things, But I came here from Watonga, Oklahoma. I'm from here, and but my art, and I'm just teaching it, like I said, what my people did, how the style that they did, to teach people about my people, through my art, And so that's it. If you guys got any questions, anything,
He was saying, talking about the saber here, the
Uh-huh.
woman that did, or woman, Cheyenne woman, their regalia they put on when they go to powwows and dances, or they get for a ceremony. They have this like a robe of country, and they wear it here. That's what it represents.
Yeah.
So, and they wore it right here.
There was, yeah. Yeah. There was actually a society a women's society, and the last two that I know that belonged to the society was Catherine Bull Cumming and Marie Whiteman, but they're gone now. So that society's gone now. It came from her.
Our societies, our clans, they have what we call sisters. The lady
Yeah.
represents that clan, and they were that to the chieftainship. That's what they were, and they were called the Lightning Clan. That's what they were, and like you said, that was